Good afternoon, everyone. It is Tuesday, June 16th at 5 p.m. This is the Fairmont Area School Board. Our roll call this evening is two of our members are absent. Rufus Rodriguez and Danielle Schutz are unable to be here this evening, but we do have a quorum with 4 members. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll move to the minutes of the May 26, 2015 board meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those?
I move to approve.
Thank you, Julie. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Nicole. I have a motion by Julie, second by Nicole to approve the May 26, 2015 school board meeting minutes as printed. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then for the agenda, you should have the green agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to that agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as presented this evening.
Thank you, Nicole. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Julie. I have a motion by Nicole, second by Julie to approve the June 16th, 2015 school board meeting agenda as printed on the green sheet. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then we'll move to our celebrations and school community reports, and we have a report for QComp for the end of the year, and Joe Strukel is here to tell us about that. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I think you have a copy of the report?
Yep.
Okay. This is the same report format that we've filed with the state for the past 3 years. This will be the 4th year that we've done it. Like I said, the format is the same as previous reports. You'll have an opportunity to take a closer look at it. You've got your own copies. Really, we're not looking at any significant changes going into next year. Just kind of the two things that I would say would be changes that you will see or might be noticeable is that, and this is not necessarily something a QComp thing, but a staff development piece. The Staff Development Curriculum Committee, or the SDCC, now will be holding their annual retreat in August instead of June. That's a change from the past year. I think that's going to be a very effective change for them, just simply from the standpoint, sometimes when they held the June retreat, like MCA scores had not yet been reported from the state, all right? And also so quickly after the school year, people just didn't necessarily have the time to reflect on what really happened during the year as you're wrapping the year up. And so having that retreat in August, I think, is going to be a nice change. And then the other piece would be is that we have had coordinator positions for teacher leadership. We're using our QCOM dollars of a observer coordinator and a PLC coordinator. And going into next year, one of the changes that SDCC will look at pretty seriously at their August retreat is splitting that observer coordinator position into 2 instead of just 1. So there'd be 1 for the pre-K through 6 PLCs and then 1 for the 7 through 12. Over time, what we've come to understand is that just the 7 through 12 building and its PLCs operate differently than the pre-K through 6 one. And it was challenging for one person to try to coordinate both, all right? And so next year, I think they're going to be moving to a model where they have 2 positions instead of 1. So.
And SDCC is the driver of that, okay.
Yep, they'll be discussing that at their August retreat, but that would be the only real significant thing that I would say would be different going into QComp for next year, or at least the way we're spending our QComp dollars.
Did that suggestion come through teacher leadership, or how did that? Okay.
That actually came from
Or the
current PLC coordinator and also current PLC leaders.
Okay.
In the pre-K through 6, or basically in the elementary school, the PLCs are basically by grade levels, right? Whereas in the 7 through 12, they are based on curricular areas. So you have multiple grade levels in a group. And so they're just different models, right? And we think we can be more effective in the future if they kind of stay separate instead of trying to blend them together. Just because I can speak from the 7th through 12 perspective is that we have a 7th and 8th and 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade teacher in our group, and you're really dealing with a lot of different things there when you're dealing with trying to use an instructional strategy from 7th grade through 12th grade because they're just different students. Whereas with the pre-K through 6, the 1 grade level, those are different issues. So,
Okay.
yeah, that was very much teacher driven, that model probably needed to be tweaked a little bit.
Okay.
So,
All right, you're on SDC, you'll be at the retreat, so you'll know.
Mhm.
Okay, you'll report back, all right.
Mr. Strukel, on behalf of the administration and the school board, I want to personally thank you for your leadership in QComp. Without your skill, I don't think we would have been at QComp school 4 years ago, and really appreciate the good work you have done pulling the teachers together and writing a QComp plan that was easily and readily approved by the Minnesota Department of Ed. We're going to miss you, and we wish you well as you travel east. But we certainly do want to thank you because I really think the QComp has made our district a better district. We're the only QComp school in Martin County, and but you'll be going to a QComp school in Blue Earth. And so you can take the good things that you've done there and modify theirs maybe.
I don't know about that. I'm looking forward to next year, just taking a year to figure out what, they might ask me to do a lot of things, but my first year I can say, no, I'm just learning yet.
Yeah.
So, I will say that in the springtime of this year, this is the least that I've ever worked on QCOM stuff. With all the end of the year paperwork and other things that are coming in, we have grown a lot as a district, and I'm not saying because it all got done without me, but there were really the structures are in place now after the fourth year that it works, all right, and we have the people in place to make it work. And so I feel really good about not necessarily leaving, but that this is going to continue to work. I believe Michelle Baker is going to be assuming my position for next year, so she will be standing here a little bit shorter than me, but making this report next year too. But the processes are in place, and I think they're processes that this should continue to work. So.
Well, thank you for all that you've done and for reporting every year and a couple times a year sometimes,
I don't
isn't it?
report because I want to. I report because the state makes me to.
But we appreciate it because then we learn more about it too and,
Yeah.
and get to understand more what you
I don't-
do in the trenches every day too.
If you notice right there on the very front of the report, it's after you put your district and your district number in, they also, what is the date that it was actually reported to the school board. And that's an important piece of the QComp, or just with how education's done in the state of Minnesota. Your job is very important. I mean, the
Yeah.
state of Minnesota expects that school districts are run locally. And I have appreciated in my 18 years in Fairmont, the job that you have done, or the boards have done, is that we have beautiful schools here.
Yep.
And they're very, very effective, so.
Yeah. Well, good luck to you and your family as you
Thank
move
you.
to new adventures, and congratulations.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, that was one of the shorter QComp reports that we've had too, wasn't it? So, all right, we'll move to the superintendent's report and calendar. Superintendent Brown?
Well, thank you, Diane. First of all, the school board calendar, a couple of upcoming events. Looking ahead, there's a Southern Plains Education Cooperative meeting on Monday, June 22nd. Also, by the way, on Monday, June 22nd, Dr. Tom Melcher for the Minnesota Department of Education will be in Mankato, and he'll be presenting the analysis of what the legislature did for schools, both financially and policy-wise, to superintendents and business managers, and Sue Nelson and I will both be attending that meeting on Monday, June 22nd in Mankato. Looking ahead to the next school board meeting will be in July. It will be Tuesday, July 14th. And also, I just want to remind the community right now that if they're trying to get to the elementary and the high school, the parking lots are being resurfaced. And so we would just ask people not to run over the orange cones. They're put in place for a reason because they're in the process of resurfacing both the elementary and the high school parking lots. And that should be done probably at the end of this week or early next week. They were delayed one day because of the rain the other day, but I noticed when we were leaving the building today, they had it marked off. They're working into the evening hours to catch up. And also a reminder to the community that we have the summer food service program that will be available at the elementary during the month of July, and that will start July 13th through July 31st. There'll be both breakfast and lunch served, and this is served free of charge to any individual who's 18 years or younger than 18 years of age. And so last summer we fed quite a few people during the day, both breakfast and lunch, and that will be available in July. In August, those feeding program will be held at the high school, and we'll report on those dates next month. But once again, July 13th through July 31st, breakfast and lunch at the elementary school for anybody under the age of 18.
Does that coincide kind of with the summer school times too, isn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes. So it's a great time for students to come to school and get breakfast and get fed academically and then get fed before they go home.
But it's all under 18, correct? I mean, 0
correct.
to 8,
Right.
age 0 to, right? I mean,
That is correct. So if
Okay.
you have infants,
1 to 18.
1 to 18.
Okay.
And if you are older than 18, or if you're a parent that wants to come in and eat with your child, you can, but you have to pay for that.
Okay.
You have to pay for that meal. And last summer, we had quite a few parents that came in and purchased a lunch and sat and ate with their children.
And it's fairly reasonable price too. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
It is,
very
yeah.
expensive, at
It's
least
$4 for the adult? Okay.
$4.
That's still a very
That's
reasonable
reasonable.
price.
Yeah.
It's a good meal.
Yeah.
So very good.
All right, any
That's it.
questions for Superintendent Brown? All right, thank you. Next, we'll move to financial business. We have Sue Nelson here to talk about the reports and bills for the month.
All right, tonight on the agenda, we have the May 2015 Treasurers Report, wire transfers from May 22nd through June 11th, and the payment of the June 9th bills. So beginning with the May 2015 Treasurers Report that you have, I have all of the different accounts that we have within each fund and what that cash balance is at the end of May. And then if you flip that over, I have the expenditure report as of the end of May. So on the left, so this is the top half, I have the funds on the left, and then the 2015 budget. And I do have the updated budget, the new revised budget, that is the next item on the agenda. Then I have our monthly expenditures, so what's been spent out in May by fund, and then our year-to-date expenditures, and then what percent of the budget is spent. So like in the general fund, we're just under 75% spent. And just to remind you, teachers, all but 2 of our teachers are paid 12 times during the school year, so they still have 3 paychecks to receive. They're June, July, and August paychecks that are for this year. Okay. And then on the bottom, we have the transfers and wires from May 22nd to June 11th. The first few are associated with the May payroll. And then I transferred some money from the liquid asset fund to the general account, and then I transferred some money back 2 times. And the reason I transferred money back is we received quite a bit of our county dollars, some the end of May and some early in June. And then we had our P-card payment in there, $9,431. And you should have a P-card register I'll go over in just a couple of minutes. And then on the very bottom, you can see our total payroll disbursements for May were $1,040,936. Did you have any questions on either of those 3 pieces? Okay, then we can move to the check registers. You should have a P-card register that's dated June 3rd. Just a couple to bring to your attention there. The third one down, Washington Pavilion. This is for our 3rd grade students for their field trip. We're using student activity funds for that. Then Minnesota DNR-OMB, that's for our 4th graders going to the Mystery Cave, and that is student activity dollars. The very next check, Minnesota Historical Society, that again is our 4th graders going on their field trip and using student activity dollars. A few down from there, we have the Homewood Suites, and this is for the state FFA convention for lodging for our students and advisor, and this again is using student activity dollars. Do you have any questions on the P-card register? Okay, then the next register is dated June 9th, and our treasurer Julie Lau and I did meet to review these prior to these bills being, or payments being mailed out, with just having the one school board meeting in June. When we get off cycle like that, Julie and I do meet to review everything so payments can be mailed out. I just have a couple to bring to your attention. Check number 57115 made out to the Big South Conference. We hosted a baseball conference game and a softball conference game, and then we needed to pass those gate receipts to the Big South Conference. So that's what that check is for. Check number 57147 made out to Herff Jones. This is for a diploma covers and inserts. Check number 57154. There's like 4 checks in a row right there, and those are all for lunch refunds. When our graduating seniors, typically we'll process a check for them to clear out their lunch account unless they have a sibling, or if they don't choose to send it to the sibling's account, then we'll send them a check. And then check number 57-185 made out to South Central College. This is for our ag instructor, Amber Seibert, to attend a CASE training, and that is Curriculum for Agricultural Science Education. And this is like a week-long training that she goes to, and then Superintendent Brown let me know today that after she is done with that, she actually brings that curriculum back and uses it in our district. Okay. Do you have any questions on that register? Julie and I did review everything.
We reviewed everything. Some tonight, and like Sue said, we do meet on those off weeks when we change our meeting times. So, if there are no questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve the May 2015 Treasurers Report, wire transfers from May 22nd, 2015 to June 11th, 2015, and payment of the June 9th, 2015 bills.
Thank you, Julie. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Nicole. So I have the motion by Julie and the second by Nicole to approve the treasurer's report as presented. Any further discussion, questions about that item? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then Sue's got a couple of budget reports to do, so the revised budget.
Right. Each year we review the budget 3 times. In June, prior to the start of the school year, it's a preliminary budget. And then in the fall, when all staff is in place, or after any negotiations that we need to do, is the adopted budget. And then again in the springtime, around this time of year, spring and early summer, we look at if we should do another revision to our budget. And this year we are choosing to do one. So you should have in front of you Appendix A, which is the 2014-2015 revised budget. In reviewing this, I'll compare it with the adopted budget that was approved by the board on November 25th. In the general fund, changes have been made to the revenue and expenditure budgets. The bottom line is we're projected to have almost the exact same amount in our unassigned fund balance at the end of the 14-15 school year. We did increase expenditures in our technology and curriculum area for this 14-15 school year. What we did there is we made a decision to there's already been one meeting or workshop with all of our staff on those with that reading curriculum. Overall, we're projected to end the year in that unassigned area with $2,739,000, and that's a few days less than 2 months of expenditures. Our policy is 1 month, and our goal is 2 months, so we're approaching that. The total general fund revenues are $17,300,000. 15.6% of that are local dollars, 2.4% are federal dollars, and with a balance of 82% coming from the state. The total general fund expenditures are $18,168,000, and so we are exceeding our revenues by about $797,000. But why that is we're spending quite a few dollars that have been set aside from prior years for certain expenditures. Like one area is staff development. We're spending $100,000 out of an assigned fund balance. We're spending $305,000 out of a committed fund balance for the masonry project. And the difference there is committed, the board we have to have board action to have dollars in a committed fund balance. An assigned fund balance, we can decide that by administration. And if it's restricted, then the state is telling us we need to restrict that. So then if we go down to the assigned for technology and curriculum, we're spending $674,000 coming out of that set aside fund balance. The hardest areas to budget are always our pupil units. We always have to project those, and it can be, you just never know what's going to happen throughout the whole year. And another area that's tough to budget for is special education, both on the revenue and the expenditure side. Okay, I can move to food service unless you have any questions on the general fund. Okay, in food service, the revised budget remains the same as the adopted budget. We're projecting about a $42,000 increase in the fund balance there. In community service, we have a few changes, looking to end the year with just over $15,000 in the CER and unassigned fund balance, about $29,000 in ECFE, $34,000 in school readiness, and about $7,800 in ABE. In the capital fund, a few changes were made with this budget, or from the adopted budget to this budget in deferred maintenance and health and safety. In the operating capital is where we had the majority of our changes. One thing we did is add budget for the roller skating project purchase. That was $20,000. And the other large changes for security upgrades that were approved using $113,000 of Windows settlement dollars. Back on December 4th, the Operations Committee met and approved using some of those dollars for this building security project. That includes at the elementary installing 9 additional security cameras and programming, doing wiring and camera mounting, security camera server upgrades, 2 ADA door operators for the main office, burglar alarm system in the 3-6 principal's office, and server software updates. And then at the high school for the security project, we had security camera server upgrade, adding strobe lights to the music areas, shops, and gyms, a PA amp upgrade and speaker and horns to some designated areas, and again, server software updates. Okay, moving then to the building construction fund. This shows interest earnings as well as FEMA dollars that were recognized in the 14-15 school year. Expenditures are for projected costs to be paid out during the 14-15 school year, and this should be the end of our building construction fund. Then moving to debt service, there were significant changes in the debt service budget. This is the fund that we use to pay our bonded debt of the school district. And as you recall, we refunded our elementary addition bonds. So we sold new bonds, received those proceeds, and paid off our old bonds. So we had a significant increase in both our expenditures and revenues. The bond sale was February 24th, and the savings to our taxpayers was $1,583,638. Just a few changes were in the trust and agency, and this is our Hunt Fund and our Enrichment Fund. And then we have student activity, and there the revenues and expenditures will vary every year. We've budgeted here, I budgeted here to reflect the current activity. And we're looking to have revenues exceed expenditures by about $7,500. The total revenues in all funds, $38,263,615. Expenditures, $39,235,508. Again, we had all of those differences in the general fund that we spoke of before. And then if you look at the building construction fund, we're spending down that fund balance, which is $367,000. We reviewed this revised budget with Operations Committee on June 10th, and they do recommend approval. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Sue on the budget?
I know it was presented to both groups as well, wasn't it? And all their questions was brought up at that time. I don't have anything further. So I would make a motion to approve the revised 2014-15 budget as presented.
Thank you, Julie. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dan. Motion by Julie, second by Dan to approve the revised 2014-15 budget as you can see in Appendix A. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to thank you, Sue, and Joe for the diligence that you've had in making sure that we're staying on a good financial track. And it's really, I know how much you value and how important it is to make sure that we have a balanced budget every year, and it's showed in our overall financial health over the last few years. I think we're doing a great job, so
Thank you.
appreciate all the work.
Thank you.
All right, so I have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Then we'll move to the preliminary budget for the 15-16 school year.
Okay, you have Appendix B in front of you, and this is the preliminary budget for the 15-16 school year. And prior to the start of any school year, which is July 1, school boards are required to approve a preliminary budget. Work began on this preliminary budget this past winter to come up with a plan that would be close to cost neutral and best meet the needs of our students and school district. And the goal there is always to have a minimal change in costs. The FY16 or the 15-16 preliminary budget document begins where the projected end of the year fund balance was from the 15 revised budget that we just approved. So that final column there starts our new projected beginning fund balance. The beginning fund balance in the general fund is projected to be $3.8 million, with revenues of $17,386,000, expenditures $17,889,000, projected to the end of the year with fund balances of $3.3 million overall, and the unassigned portion of that would be just under $2.7 million, which again is just a little shy of our 2 months operating expense. The projected beginning of the year fund balance will definitely change from this. That will be determined on how we end the 14-15 school year. And we'll have final figures, hopefully end of October or early November when our audit is complete. With this 15-16 preliminary budget, we're using the same number of students served as we did in the 14-15 school year. That is 1,677 students served in our district. We do know, or we're projecting starting with more students than that, but just kind of taking that conservative approach of reducing that enrollment by 1% on our revenue side. Also on the revenue side, I've increased the formula by 2% with that recent legislative action. The state of Minnesota will update their what if and do some of those things, and that's not out there yet, so I just kind of did that on my own. And so in the fall, when I work on this budget again, we'll actually use that state what if with all of the legislative changes. I also reduced gate receipts as students will be admitted free with adults beginning to this 15-16 school year. On the expenditure side, I increased wages and fringes an estimated amount for unsettled contracts, included an increase for payments to Southern Plains. I did a 1% increase for our contract with Minnesota Motor Bus. I looked at utility budgets, and all of those looked okay for the 15-16 school year with the exception of electricity and sanitation. The electrical budget I just increased very slightly, and sanitation I increased by 3.5% based on our contract that we have. So this fall, I'll continue to work on the budget, including reviewing the students that actually start and determining how many students to use in our next budget. The final staffing, which we pretty much have now, any contract settlements for employee groups. And as always, the hardest thing to budget for are the pupil units and special education revenues and expenditures. Do you have any questions on the general fund? Okay, moving to food service. This budget is very preliminary. It's been updated by Chartwells to reflect anticipated state and federal reimbursement changes, staffing changes, a lunch price change of 5 cents per lunch, increase in food costs. We're projecting a profit of about $10,000. Today I had a conference call with the new district manager. Her name is Katie. She's the person that oversees the operations at Fairmont Schools. She was John Durchee's replacement. And then Jackie LeMay was also on that conference call, and we reviewed the budget. And they're going to be getting me a new budget document. But so at least we're making some progress in that area. When the very first budget that came when I worked with operations, she had it at a 10-cent per lunch increase. And during operations, we decided, or the board decided or felt they should leave it at a 5-cent increase. So that will come back to the board in July for approval. Any questions on the food service? Okay, then moving to community service. The preliminary budget is based on the 14-15 revised budget with a few assumptions for wages and benefits, and we do know that our ABE funding will be reduced for the 15-16 school year. Moving to operating capital, that's based on actual health and safety projects scheduled and anticipated capital expenditures and technology projects for the 15-16 school year. Debt service is based on actual scheduled payments and levy dollars. Trust and agency is based on the prior year revised budget, which is a couple of changes. And student activity is based on the prior year revised budget. So what are our total revenues with this preliminary budget are $22,572,425, while expenditures are $23,149,935. And there again, we're spending some dollars that are in assigned or committed fund balances. We have $310 coming out of assigned for technology and curriculum, $100,000 in staff development.
So that technology and curriculum, that's always we pay for it a year ahead of when we actually use it,
That's
so that we,
really what we're moving to. We just felt that that was a better way, so we
Right.
can purchase the technology. We've received it already this year, so our IT guys can have it ready.
so we're just gonna keep moving forward that way.
Yep, that's
then.
our
Okay,
plan.
good.
That is our
Yeah,
plan.
Okay.
Is there any questions? We did review this again with Operations Committee on June 10th, and they do recommend approval. But if you have any questions for anyone?
Well, it's preliminary, so.
Yes, it definitely will
Looks good.
change. Okay.
Yeah. And didn't we end the year with about 1,677 students, didn't we?
We did. I think we were above that all the way till, was it April? And then
About
we
April.
slid just a little below
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, yeah, so. okay. All right, any other questions or concerns? I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion to approve the preliminary 2015-16 budget as presented in
Thank-
Appendix B.
Thank you, Julie. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Dan. Motion by Julie, second by Dan to approve the preliminary 15-16 budget as presented. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Sue, for your work on all those budgets. Then we'll move to old business, which we have nothing to bring back to the board in old business. We'll move to new business. And we have a health and safety budget, Dan.
Another
Speaking of budgets,
It's another one of the items that we looked at the operations meeting on June 10th. This is a mandatory thing that the state requires boards to do, to approve a 3-year health and safety budget. And Director of Building and Grounds, Dave Turnberg, reviewed that budget with us, and the results are there in Appendix C. And the Operations Committee recommends approval of that budget. You can see there's 6 different items that are mentioned there.
I just have a question on that fire and life safety, and maybe you don't know this, but it went from 91,000 down to 22,000. Did we have a big project or something?
There's
Like the
certain,
fourth, fifth line
yeah,
down.
the certain testing that is done only every
So many
so many
years.
years,
Oh,
and
okay.
and it happened to be this particular year. That's why the number will be less.
Okay, which is nice, but
Mhm.
that's a big change there, so I was just curious
Well,
about
and
that.
if you look down below, I see there's also listed repairs for smoke detectors, so maybe there was some repairs that were done that wouldn't have to be done every year. And that, so,
Okay. Right,
So I would make a motion to approve the health and safety budget for the next 3 school years through 2016-17.
thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Nicole. A motion by Dan, second by Nicole to approve the health and safety budget. It's in Appendix C. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Then we're gonna move to the health and safety policy, which is Appendix D, Dan.
Okay, find my appendix D here. The health and safety policy is policy 807, and it was revised in 2013. And this is another one that's mandated by the state. We reviewed the policy, and there are basically no changes from the previous policy. So I would make a motion to approve the policy number 807, health and safety policy for the next school year.
Thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Nicole. I have a motion by Dan, second by Nicole to approve the health and safety policy number 807, Appendix D. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then we'll move to the revised calendar. Nicole?
Yes, every year we need to approve the revised calendar, which is the calendar that we actually observe during the school year. That is located in Appendix E of your packet. The only change that we had would be due to snow days, which was January 8th. And with that, I move to approve the revised 2014-15 school year calendar as presented in Appendix E.
Thank you, Nicole. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Julie. So I have the motion by Nicole, second by Julie to approve the 14-15 revised calendar. It's amazing we only had one snow day in that whole mix of things, so.
I move that we have that many snow days or less every year.
Yeah. Why, we would hope so. Aren't you the weatherman, so can't
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
help with that?
I'll take care of that.
There you
I
go.
think it might take a higher power, but good luck.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll write a letter.
Okay, any questions about the calendar then? If not, I have a motion on the floor, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Then we have an audit proposal, Dan.
Another one of the items on our list on June 10th in the operations involves our audit. Now I just got to find the right piece of paper here. It's Clifton Larson Allen, LLP, has been conducting our audits here for many years, and there has been a slight change in the way that they're supposed to go about doing their business. There's a little bit of extra work here. And Sue would like to continue working with them for this audit. There would be no increase over last year's audit fees. The total cost for this audit will be $18,900 plus reimbursable expenses not to exceed another small amount. And then the additional cost is a one-time cost of $1,500, not to exceed that amount, because of services related to the new, it's called GASB, GASB Statement Number 68, which deals with pension plans. And there's a little more change in the way that those have to be reported now. So we recommended approving that as just a one-time expense, because they're not sure exactly how much work needs to be done with this change either. So, but it's just anticipated to be a one-time adjustment. So with that, I would make a motion to approve the hiring Clifton Larson Allen to complete the school district's 2014-15 audit at the cost of $18,900 and an additional fee not to exceed $1,500 for the new GASB statement.
All right, thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Julie. So I have the motion by Dan, second by Julie to approve the hiring of Clifton Larson Allen for the audit. When does that start, or has it already started?
Well, we've already, they've already sent us documents, and the office staff, we have all met and kind of divided what each person does. And I know Judy's already sent some of her things back, and I've sent a few things.
And they'll be here for a couple
They'll
days?
be here for the 8th and 9th of July, and then the week, I think it's like August 23rd or 4th.
Okay.
So, yep, they're
All
getting
right, so
started.
they're on their way. All right. Any other questions about the audit proposal and the motion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, then, a spec agreement, Julie?
Yes, in your packet, Appendix F, the Fairmont Area Schools has provided payroll and benefit services to Southern Plains for several years, and both parties would like to continue this our working agreement. And this is just a copy of this agreement, and this has been reviewed by the Operations Committee, and it is recommended for approval. And so I would make a motion to approve the 2015-16 payroll and benefits management agreement with Southern Plains Educational Cooperative as presented.
Thank you, Julie. Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
She got
Thank you, Nicole. I have a motion by Julie, second by Nicole to approve the 15-16 payroll and benefits management agreement with Southern Plains. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And then we have some personnel issues to deal with, and that's some extended contracts. Nicole?
High school social worker Michelle Thompson has asked to attend 3 BEST, that's Building and Empowering Students Together, meetings that are offered during the summer. It's a group facilitated by the probation office and community members. The group's purpose is to offer help and resources to some of our students and their families. Her participation in these meetings is very valuable to us as a district and the students that we serve. Also, Principal Niss has asked that Mrs. Thompson be present during the 2 registration days prior to the beginning of the school year to meet with students and families to ensure that they have a good start with the school year. She is proposing that we extend Mrs. Thompson's contract by 5 days to cover these summer commitments. With that, I move to approve the extension of Mrs. Michelle Thompson's contract beginning with the 2015 school year by 5 days.
Thank you, Nicole. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dan. I have a motion by Nicole, second by Dan to approve the extension of Michelle Thompson's contract by 5 days. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next one?
Is to approve the increasing Keisha Glinke's contract at the elementary media tech position from a .5 full-time to 1.0 full-time employment effective for the 15-16 school year at a salary of step 2 of the media technician salary schedule. With that, I move to approve that as just stated.
Thank you, Nicole. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Julie. So I have a motion by Nicole, second by Julie to approve the increase of Keisha Glinke's contract to 1.0 FTE as the media tech at the elementary library. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have some employment, some new teachers for our
Miss-
district.
Mr. Davison who is recommending that Jim Buss be hired to serve as a 6th grade science teacher. He has been serving as a substitute teacher and working on a regular basis in our district for the past several years. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in elementary education from Concordia College. With that, I move to approve Mr. Buss as an elementary science teacher effective August 17th, 2015 at a salary of BA Step 1.
Thank you, Nicole. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dan. I have a motion by Nicole, second by Dan to approve the employment of Jim Buss as the elementary science teacher. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the second?
Mr. Davison is also recommending that Haley Rochdahl be hired to teach 6th grade language arts social studies. Last year's 5th grade class had 129 students, whereas this year's 6th grade class that is leaving had 101 students. So we've needed to add a section to the 6th grade. She has been hired to teach this additional section. She graduated this spring from Winona State with a Bachelor of Science degree in elementary education and a minor in communication arts and literature. She completed her student teaching in Algona and Humboldt, Iowa. With that, I move to approve the employment of Haley Rochdahl as an elementary language arts social studies teacher effective August 17th, 2015 at a salary of BA Step 1.
Thank you, Nicole. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Julie. So I have a motion by Nicole, second by Julie to approve the employment of Haley Rochdahl as the elementary language arts social studies teacher. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the last one for you?
The last item is Mr. Eric Johnson has been presented and recommended as the girls varsity tennis coach for the 2015 fall season. He has previously served as the girls assistant varsity coach and as the boys varsity coach. With that, I move to approve the employment of Eric Johnson as the head girls tennis coach for the 2015-16 school year at a salary of Step 4.
Thank you, Nicole. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dan. I have a motion by Nicole, second by Dan to approve the employment of Eric Johnson as the head girls tennis coach. Any further discussion?
I'm
Oh.
sad to see that our previous coach is moving to Arizona, so she did a wonderful job with the girls over the last few years. So
Yeah.
wish her best of luck.
Yeah, thank you. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then we, at staff welfare, we talked about some additional staffing, and Dave Turnberg, whenever it does snow and we have icy sidewalks and things, could use a little extra help. So our proposal is to add 2 half-time custodians to work during the winter months from December through March. And that would begin this December to help with those snow days and getting the schools ready. And, the custodians have their regular jobs to do plus the snow removal, and it kind of gets backed up. So he just would appreciate that help. So staff welfare is recommending that. So I will offer the motion to approve adding 2 half-time custodians to work 4 months during the winter from December through March. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Nicole. So I have a motion by Diane, second by Nicole to approve the additional custodians for the winter. Any further discussion or questions on that?
Well, if Dan's wish would come true, that we wouldn't have the snow, then what's the plan then for these individuals? I mean, they're,
They would be working
Still
on
they-
some of the projects.
some of the projects that
they
need to be
can't-
done?
Can't
Okay.
get done. But usually there's ice and.
there's
stuff
usually
to-
something, so yeah.
Some things to do.
But they wouldn't be, they're guaranteed to be working. They would not be
Right.
put, off or,
Right.
okay, that's my question.
And we're
so.
hoping too that, with the sanding and parking lots and that kind of thing, we can save some of those work comp falls that we've had
Oh, yeah.
experienced in the past too. And we don't want anyone to have to deal with that either, so.
Yeah,
Just
that's
a
just,
little
yeah, that's
extra
just, the buildings tend to get a little messier when the kids are tromping in
Mhm.
snow and dirt and mud, and so that's a good idea.
Mhm.
Yep.
No, I just was curious as to what would happen
Yep.
if we were sunny and 70 all winter long, but,
Climate change.
Ourselves, California.
Then there'll be other things that he will have them do there's always plenty of projects, so.
Okay.
Do we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, then we're down to board committee reports, and we had 2 staff welfare meetings. So Nicole, you want to report on those?
Yes, the first was held Friday, June 5th, from 3 to 4:30. We discussed the new hires that were recommended and approved this evening at the elementary school and the extended day contract for Mrs. Thompson. We also talked at length about the .5 addition to the media tech position and continued that discussion at the June 15th meeting. We went over the revised 2014-15 school year calendar, reviewed the 2015-16 budgetary plan, and also received an update on the hockey budget from Randy Lupinow. No action was taken on the information concerning the Hockey Association. The continued discussion on June 15th regarding the media tech. We asked at our June 5th meeting that we receive more of a clear idea as to what the media tech position, the additional time would entail and would accomplish with regards to both the librarian and the media tech position, and that information was presented to us in a very detailed job description from Mrs. Rosen and also compiled by Ms. Martins. That day we also went over a gifted and talented request. That was actually myself and Mr. Brown prior to the meeting for the gifted and talented program, with $1,200 being granted to the accounting, I believe it was an accounting class, a college in the schools from North Hennepin Community College, for them to purchase books. There are 12 students that will be taking that course, and they need books at about $100 a piece. We also went over the head girls tennis coaching position. We discussed increasing a special ed teacher from 0.7 to 1.0 full-time. And no school board action is required because this is a Southern Plains Education spec employee. We also talked about a high school student support proposal, what we need to do at our high school to best support our students and help them with their mental health. We also went over it was a very busy meeting. We talked about the part-time custodians for the 4 winter months, and also a brief discussion about teacher negotiations, which will be coming up shortly.
All right, any questions for the staff welfare committee or Nicole on that? Thank you. We did have long meetings and get a lot done. All right, thank you, Nicole. Then we'll go to operations committee meeting, Dan.
Our operations committee met on Wednesday, June 10th, where we looked at the revised 2014-15 budget that Sue presented to us here tonight, and also the preliminary budget for next year that we also reviewed, and also the item about the auditing services that we approved here a few minutes ago, and the Southern Plains Ed Cooperative Agreements that was also on the agenda tonight here. We had discussion about the property on near Stady Lane, the Stady property, which is just south of the city soccer fields. And that land was purchased many years ago by the school district as a possible site for an elementary school. I believe that was 30, 40 years ago or more. We had listed that land for sale back in 2011. We did not receive any offers on that land at that time. So in the past few summers, WFS has been using this property as a test plot, and the proceeds from the harvest of those crops have been donated to our Ag Academy. Superintendent Brown informed us that there might be a party interested in purchasing the property, and we just discussed some of the pros and cons of what we have with it. Currently, it generates revenue for our FFA program and helps provide them with some field experience. We also talked about how the property could possibly be developed for additional housing and expansion of the city too. So we didn't take any action on it at this time, but we're just kind of keeping an eye on that situation basically. And we'll see if anything further develops from that. We also took a look at the fundraiser log for all the different groups, elementary and high school. And this past year, it looks like there were 9 different fundraisers that went through at the high school. There were 6 different events for early childhood family ed, and there were about 8 or 9 events at Fairmont Elementary too. And we've just kind of had this as an informational thing to keep track of who's doing sales at what time, and that we don't have too many groups out there asking for money at the same time. And
Or that they're even repeating some of the same
Right.
fundraisers. It's
Yeah.
kind of part of it too, so that
Mhm.
you aren't sending 2 different groups out for 2 different purposes selling the same thing. So
And some of those groups were very successful in their fundraising. Most all turned some sort of profit, so that was good to see. And all those funds go to student activity funds, the monies that are raised there. And then we also got an update on the hockey program from Randy Lubenow, just as staff welfare did.
All right, any questions for operations? Anything else that needs to come before the board? Well, school is out for the summer, right?
Well,
It was
it's
a
out.
good year too, wasn't it?
It's been a really powerful year, really strong year, and really pleased with the test scores that are coming back. We're still waiting for the ACT test scores to come to our school. I think the students received their individual scores,
Oh, did they now?
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, they did, okay,
And
good.
so we'll be getting some of those scores, and we'll be able to analyze those. But summer school begins in a couple of weeks, and so we'll have a lot of students. I think about 250 students have signed up for summer school, and so we'll be pretty busy. There's one other brochure on your table, because this organization, Steph Johnson is a new program coordinator for the FSAP, the Fairmont Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition, and she called me the other day and asked if one of our school board members might be interested in serving on their board. And so I know there's only 4 of us here tonight, but if someone has some interest in serving on this board, we can get a hold of Steph Johnson, or if you have any questions, you feel free to call her directly.
Then I just encourage people to watch for kids running around out on this, on the various areas in the summer. They're out having fun. And then also encourage them to read. Take them to the library or pick up a book and read with them. That's just a good way to keep them up to date and interested and reading and for fun and reading for pleasure, and also keep their skills up. So just
Right.
encourage people to do that.
and
during the
even if
summer.
it's not going to the library, but all the electronics availability out there for reading and that there is, with the readers that families have. And I mean, you can get your apps on your phone, your apps on your, computers and that. But, there's a lot of electronic books that are available. Many are free. You can get a lot of older titles, the classic titles and that. Many of those are free, but there again, you can get it from a library and you can get electronically from a library as well. So, yes, you're right, Diane. There's a lot of opportunities for our students through the summer and that to expand their
read
reading.
a magazine, read a
Mhm.
newspaper, just, be reading and be encouraging your kids to read. It's a lifelong, it's a joy to read. It's transports you to places that you never thought you'd ever see in
That's
your mind.
right.
So very fun. So I enjoy reading, and I know Julie enjoys reading, and Nicole enjoys reading, and I don't know.
I don't know how to read.
Dan reads a lot. You read a lot of articles, though, don't you? Like, you're, Dan sends us a lot of links to articles that he finds in, on various news sources. So that's kind of interesting as a part of your job. And I know Superintendent Brown is constantly reading some book. There's always a book that he's talking about on his desk. So it's a great skill, and it's a great thing to do. So read all summer long.
Expand your knowledge.
Yep. Anything else that needs to come to the board this evening?
We had a very successful spring season with our activities. Congratulations to our girls track and field were conference champions, baseball was conference champions, boys tennis were conference champions. The softball team set the record for the most wins ever in a season for them. We had boys and girls that participated in state track, and right now we actually have several students from Fairmont that are at the state trap shooting competition competing at the state level as well. So we had a very successful spring season with all those, and congratulate and thank all the coaches and the kids for their hard work.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Anything else? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Nicole. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dan. I have a motion by Nicole, second by Dan, to approve adjourning the meeting at 5:56 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Have a good summer.